This is beautiful Seefeld in the Austrian Alps. We are ready for 11 days of competition in the FIS World Nordic Ski Championship. And during these 11 days, there will be handed out a total of 22 gold medals. And this is actually the fourth time in history that Austria has the championship and the second time that Seefeld is the host city. And could the weather be any better? No, it can't. Welcome to Seefeld. And here is the weather for the first day of the championship. 7 degrees is like Miami Beach here in Austria, and it's 5 kilometers per hour and windy, so it's nothing. And we are so excited for the first day here. And I'm so happy to introduce our expert, our cross-country expert, former world champion, former Olympian. He is from the land of, well, grizzly bears and hockey pucks. That's Canada. Devin Kerser, welcome to Eurosport.
Thanks, Karsten. Yeah, it's great to be here. I've arm wrestled some grizzly bears, and I've worked on my slap shot. Luckily, I won't need that this week. Over the next 10 days here in Seefeld, because we're here for cross-country skiing.
And the vibe here.
Oh.
You told me you never felt so relaxed, or the athletes are so relaxed.
No, it's amazing. I mean, it is amazing. The vibe here in the trucks that are where the waxers are stationed, the athletes, the sun is shining, the conditions are absolutely perfect. I mean, this is my 9th World Championships, my first on the sidelines, but I don't think I've ever seen the technicians, who are usually just one big ball of stress, so relaxed the day before the first competition to compete for the medals. It's been amazing. Okay, 11 days, 22 gold medals, but who, if you look at the ladies, who will leave Seefeld with a bunch of medals? Who do you think? Oh, well, I mean, there's only one queen of cross-country skiing. Sorry, Marit, you were the queen, but long live the queen, Therese Johaug. She has not lost a distance race this year, so I think for her, coming in here, her shoulders have to be pretty low and relaxed. Anytime you're winning every single distance race you start, you have to pick her as the one to beat for the 10 kilometer, the 15 kilometer, the 30 kilometer, and then of course the distance relays. She is outstanding. Okay, we see Therese Johaug here. We saw her last night. She was training. She looked so focused. She was in the bubble already. Yeah, no, for sure. She is definitely focused and in the bubble, but she's a pro. I mean, she has Olympic medals to her name. She's been the world champion before. She loves the tracks here. She has the whole support staff, the Norwegians, the beasts of cross-country skiing behind her, giving her the best equipment and supporting her. So, I mean, Therese Johaug, she's ready to go. For sure, she's focused, but it's a good focus. Okay, Johaug is a big favorite. But how about the Swedes? We used to talk about Charlotte Kalla. We don't know her form. How about Ebba Andersson? Is there a change there? Who's the best Swede? It'll be really interesting to know. I mean, one thing I can tell you is that Charlotte Kalla, she's a big game player. Every championship, she shows up to play. Case in point, Pyeongchang, skiathlon Olympic champion. But Ebba Andersson this year, her worst result in the World Cup has been 4th. Just to give you a little bit of an example with like how this is playing out, in the last World Cup where they competed against each other in Ulricehamn in Sweden, Ebba Andersson 3rd, Charlotte Kalla 13th. Consequently, Ebba Andersson 21, Charlotte Kalla 31, 10 years difference, 10 places different in the last World Cup where they were head-to-head. So it'll be really interesting to see, but the good thing is, very, very good cross-country skiers, both of them. Sweden should be happy. Okay, and Sweden is also happy that Stina Nilsson is here. She's been injured for like 3 weeks after Ottope. How is her form? She's here. She's going to compete tomorrow in the sprint, but how is her shape? Yeah, it's really hard to know. You know, Stina Nilsson, if Therese Johaug is the queen of cross-country, the Dutch of sprint, that's Stina Nilsson. Coming into these championships, before she got injured, she injured her hamstring in Ottope a little earlier in the season. But prior to that, 4 skate sprints, 4 straight sprint wins. It doesn't get better than that. She's the big favorite, even though there's a lot of question marks regarding her injury status. As I told when we started this show, that Seefeld is the host city for this championship, but there will also be ski jumping in the Berg Isel Hill in Innsbruck. Let's go there now to our team there, Jonas Berg-Johnson and Alexander Pointner.
25-minute drive down from Seefeld in the mountains. We are here in Berg Isel in Innsbruck and waiting for the first official training for the men's. But on Tuesday, Alex, we are waiting so much for, looking forward to the ladies coming here. But Maren Lundby, the Norwegian, obviously the big favorite.
Yes, she's the big favorite for me. She did so well this season, and she has a gold medal from last year and a lot of self-confidence.
Is it possible that anyone can beat her after 8 wins in the last 9 competitions?
It's possible. Otherwise, she would win 8 competitions, the last 8. There are some opponents. They are in really good shape too. For example, the German team.
Yeah, in the German team we have quite a few of the best ones. With Carina Vogt, obviously we know what she can do in the championships, winning both in Lahti and Falun. But you have another one that you are looking more forward to, actually.
Katharina Althaus. She is second in the overall World Cup, and she did really well this season.
But her 3 wins was before Christmas. She hasn't been up there after New Year's.
Yes, but she was sometimes second, and yeah, she is still in a good shape. And now it's a new hill and a new rhythm, and we are looking forward. Who really likes the hill in Seefeld?
Definitely, and that's one of the big duels. But we also have Sara Takanashi, 55 victories in the World Cup, but she hasn't made a #1 podium as an individual jumper in a championship.
Yes, it's really crazy when you win so often in the World Cup and you never won a big title. And of course she is looking forward for this World Championships, but she has a little bit of pressure.
So definitely she has, but she has proven that she can beat Lumbe this season. And also the veteran, the local one, the grand old lady of lady ski jumping, 35-year-old local that you are also looking forward to see.
Yes, Daniela Iraschko-Stolz, she was ill the last 2 weeks, so it's a big question mark. But now she's ready for this World Championships, and she has bright eyes, and yeah, I love to see her.
Bright eyes will be very important to find some form and rhythm here in Seefeld. We're looking forward for the ladies when they come on Tuesday, Carsten.
Thank you so much, Jonas and Alexandre in Innsbruck. The first gold medal of the championship will then be displayed tomorrow in the sprint event. Today is the qualifying for the distant races. 26 ladies, 58 men are competing for a total of 20 places in the distant races. I don't know disrespect, but I don't think any one of these will win the World Championship in Seefeld.
No, you can be very sure of that, so the people betting at home can be rest assured. None of these people will be competing for the gold medal against the likes of Johaug or Kalla. But all the same, it's a great day for competition. It's the kickoff, and all these athletes have a dream to represent their country in the World Championships over these next 10 days.
And the oldest competitor is 55 years old. He's from Mexico. The youngest one just turned 16. Nefeti Tita from Greece. You see her here. 16 years old. How old were you when you started in your first World Championship?
Well, my first World Championship, I was 20 years old, so she's got me beat by 4 years. Seeing her skiing around the track, what I think is just such a great story, what's a great story with her is that she's 16. She's obviously a real fan of cross-country skiing, as though, I mean, what I mean by that is she enjoys racing. She's getting a chance here at 16, 4 years before I ever had a chance to compete at the international scene. And the course is challenging, but she doesn't ski that terribly, and I think she'll have a good day and she'll have a really good chance to make it in.
All right, good luck to Greece in this qualification. We'll be right back with the ladies' qualification after the break. Stay tuned.
Well, a very good morning and welcome to Seefeld for the Nordic World Championships, a venue that hasn't been used since 1985. Things have changed a little. The tracks are in much better condition. Of course, now freestyle is very much established because it was here back in 1985 when the top athletes started using skating. There are some fantastic shots of that. Now, the women's 5K about to get underway, 5-kilometre classic, and the top 10 only going through to the major championships for real. Well, there you get a fantastic aerial shot of the course. Mike, the conditions of the track here, just superb.
It doesn't come much better, Patrick. The sun coming on recently into the stadium from about 10 o'clock this morning certainly has made some of the it's certainly in the stadium area a little soft, and when it comes to classic skiing, that may create some issues in terms of the perches that kick through the ski, but it's the same for everybody. 26 athletes about to get underway.
Well, the first starter in the women's qualification race is Oinchimeg Dalmasuren from Mongolia. Does her racing in Ulaanbaatar, as do most of the Mongolian team, and they'll be used to the colder conditions. Actually, Ulaanbaatar -16 overnight, gets up to sort of +5, +6 during the day. So it's similar to what we've had here, just a little bit more extreme.
So it must feel positively summertime as she sets out. Only 18 years old. It's a big deal to be wearing bib number 1 and an attempt to make her qualifying, but she has to be top 10, as you said. And I think the way she started, she has a very strong chance of doing just that.
Although that being said, the athletes do tend to get stronger as the start sheet goes on. The favourites are coming a little bit later on. From Hungary now, it's Ildiko Pap. And she comes from a beautiful area of Hungary that's predominantly forest and not far from the Karakants Mountains. And plenty of training facilities, but they don't have you know, the skis, the tracks, everything else that you need to raise your level to international standard. Aryan Sana for Mongolia again, another youngster, 21. We saw her at the under-23 World Championships recently. Just got inside the top 60 there, but you know, the Junior World Championships now is only a tiny level down from the majors.
It is. Her points, she scored 498 points there, so this will be a very tough challenge to make it into the top 10.
Klobuchar from Thailand has been in Europe for a while, racing in some of the Loppet races. She did the Oberammergau Loppet. Had a slow time, to be honest, but will have been a fantastic occasion for her, and I think she'll be pressed to make the top positions.
I think she will. The winning time was 2 hours 29. She was 3 hours 42 minutes later coming across the line.
Arun Tungalak Ngabaya of Mongolia, and she comes from Batsumba, which is again just outside Ulaanbaatar. I would imagine, Mike, the air very, very dry in that part of the world. How do you think they'll cope? You know, a team with limited resources, how do they cope with all the ski preparation?
It's very tough, and I think that is a big issue for most of the athletes in this test run, or the run where only the fastest 10 will make it through. When you travel to the World Championships, many of these nations are getting assistance from bigger teams and, of course, from the organising committee here.
Emilia Siavro from Lithuania, comes from Vilnius. She's got a top 10 in the national championships, which is a respectable standard. And we saw her at the Youth Olympics in Sarajevo. Sarajevo, of course, hosting the Olympics back in 1984. You'll remember it well.
I do remember it well. It seems so long ago, and of course, so much has changed down there in Sarajevo since then. But it was a fantastic, or is a fantastic memory.
This is Jejic from Croatia, 16 last month, and the second youngest, I think I'm right in saying the second youngest competitor here today. does quite a lot of roller skiing. Actually pretty handy on the roller skis, which are a good training method for the cross-country skiing, Mike. But as we discovered yesterday, it's just not quite the same when it comes to balance, when it comes to the amount of power that you can generate out of the legs.
It is, but it does. It allows you to feel this technique. You can certainly create your double poling technique very well. Seefeld, 83rd at the Junior World Championships recently up in Finland.
Yeah, that was in a 5-3. The classic, very different. And actually, for those athletes at this level that are better at the freestyle, a little bit of bad luck that the qualification race is taking place in the classic style.
Yes, and I would imagine most of this field would be more comfortable in freestyle, and that's what kids prefer to do. You give them an option that absolutely take on the skating prior to or in front of classic skiing.
So that begs the question, why don't they run this race in the freestyle?
Well, those who will get through, they'll be qualifying in both, and I suppose it's just to make sure they pick the fastest athletes here who've come to Seefeld on this test day.
Evelyn Vivian Lasko for Hungary, another youngster, just 17, same sort of level as Seefeld, so she'll know exactly what she's got to do. Actually, the whole of the Hungarian team out jogging yesterday, Mike. That's something you see a lot with all the national teams, actually. Just in the evenings, early mornings, just out for a light jog. What's the thinking behind that?
And as we saw yesterday, some teams are arriving very late here, so probably after a 6-7 hour drive, it's always a great idea just to get those legs stretched out. I think many teams, you don't want to be on these World Championship tracks training too much. You want to get a break, a change of scenery. And after 14 days of racing, you certainly will need a change of scenery.
Biliunaite had a good national championships. Next to start is Kaisha Mashaki from Iran. Quite a few Iranians racing today. And actually, the last starter, Barami Baya, is pretty handy. And I'd be surprised if she doesn't go through in the top 10 today. So they've put out a strong team.
I was just looking at, Patrick, at the conditions in Iran, and I was amazed that they've got so many huge mountains. Of course, I knew they had mountains. I didn't know the highest was 5,610 meters high. Plenty snow there.
Yeah, that puts the mountains surrounding this area to shame. I don't know if you know the Seefeld area, Loitash, where a lot of British skiers have interest. Now, this is an interesting start from Aysena Duman. I think she's going to be told to start again.
Oh, I thought you're allowed to go within 3 seconds of the beep. I thought she had managed that, but clearly not.
I'm just wondering, did Salcedo start? I think maybe she started on Salcedo's bleep rather than her own.
It's all good.
That can happen when you've got someone withdrawing. And actually, I think the officials should have been a little more on the ball to help her out there.
100% of an athlete, you need to check the numbers of the athletes coming to the line. That was a little unfortunate. Well, that was the false start, I think, now. And they realised that she had started 30 seconds too early. Well, that's a pity. But day one at the World Championships, it's a trial race to get the fastest 10 here today, but that's a pity. That spoils your race.
Now up towards the 1.7 kilometre marker, and as you will have seen from the profile of this course, the first 2.35, 2.36 kilometres is uphill. It's a really tough start, and the gradients, you know, it's not impossibly steep, Mike, but unless your technique is perfect, you're really going to struggle. So I think most of the time is going to be won and lost in the first half of this course.
I think it is. It is absolutely hilly, as you said. I'm just looking at that time, Patrick, we saw in Konya, the sprint race at the weekend. I'm doing a comparison, which maybe isn't fair, but 1.7 kilometres was being achieved in 3 minutes 35 by the fastest women. Yes, that was freestyle.
Ariane Sana up to the 1.7. The leader at the 1.2 marker, just 500 meters further down the track, obviously. And Kampaya from Mongolia, she started really well. And Ariane Sa still has the second fastest time at the first split. So that's a pretty positive start for her. Remember, only 26 starters in this qualification race. It's only going to take 13 minutes to get them all on the track. They shouldn't take much more than 17 minutes to complete the 5K. There will be one or two stragglers, of course. But on the whole, most of the athletes will be done within 35 minutes of the start of the event. Welcome back to Seefeld, the first event of these World Championships, the 52nd World Championships. Mike, you were telling me it's been going for a long, long time. And the Nordic Championships, alternate years. So essentially, they bridge the Olympic Games. So Worlds, Olympics, Worlds, and then they have a year off. Are you a fan of the alternate year format?
You know, in biathlon, where there is a World Championships every year, and except the Olympic year, I like that format. It gives those on form the opportunity at a majors. But yes, cross-country skiing, it's always the alternate years. And of course, this venue, Patrick, twice these tracks have been used for the Olympic Games, the last of which was 1976. And the first ever Youth Olympic Games coming here in 2012.
Seefeld from Lithuania being reduced to a walk, and that's how tough the start of this track is. You're not going to see that in the main championships, but it's quite a good indication, Mike, and already some of them struggling with the wax. Some have got brilliant grip, like
well, in fact,
this athlete, that's Seefeld again.
But yes, she was in the shade there. Maybe she wants to just step out of the track, slightly icy in the tracks. But in fact, her technique is working now. She's getting some possibility through the skis to propel her up the hill. And yeah, you know, we often at World Cup racing see top athletes. It's nice to see less experienced athletes.
Ladapoulou for Greece, 39 years old. Does most of her skiing in Greece and Macedonia. And she's done a couple of races in Serbia as well. Certainly a level up from the athletes you've got on your screen at the moment. Adrian Sana still the quickest up to the 1.7 kilometre stage, and you'd expect those who have got the best times up to around 2.5, you would expect them to finish in the top 4 or 5 positions, simply because there's not a lot of time to be made up on the downhill that comes down into the stadium, and then one final climb before they come into the finish.
It's quite a tricky finish, the final climb after an easy descent back into the stadium, and a fast descent towards the finish line.
This is Maria Natanu. She was one place behind Annika Taylor at the Olympics last year. Annika Taylor qualifying by right this year. No need to go through the qualification. And this is Samane Barami Baha, the last starter in the women's qualifying race. Someone who's aspiring to be a ski instructor or a cross-country coach, was inquiring about joining in on some of the Snow Sport England courses just to get herself qualified. And she was out, I thought she was skiing pretty well out in Pyeongchang last year.
Very much, and you know, from what I understand, her performance is on the up and up, and I really do hope she qualifies, and I think she will qualify today. It's all ahead of her. She'll get, hopefully, the support out there. A lot of these teams have very little support, but hopefully she'll get some split timings. I'm sure she will, on how well she's doing, and then she can pick her pace up as she goes along.
Well, limited spectator numbers, as is always the case for this race, but there are 1 or 2 family members around. The men's race will be a little bit better supported, Mike. We've got quite a good entry for the men's race, actually, and the Irish are in it, the Danish are here, the Australians are here as well, and all vying for those vitally important 10 qualifying slots.
Precious spots. Nice to be following the last starter. And working down that descent, there's certainly spirit is there to make sure she gets into the top 10.
I'm trying to think of any venue we've been to this year where we've seen so much natural snow. I know down in Ruhpolding they had a big dump before they arrived, and actually it was the same dump of snow that covered this part of the world, and they've had one massive fall. Just about every house has a metre of snow on top of it, and the peaks around here between 1,500 metres up to 2,500, creating a little bowl. It sort of has a pocket of cold air as well, Mike, and with peaks left, right and centre, whatever wind direction, you get a good covering of snow. So they say this is the safest place in Austria in terms of snow.
It's magnificent. It's almost a plateau, isn't it? Up the Innsbruck Valley, a deep valley all the way up to Rosenheim and then across to Munich further north. And then you just drive up the valley from Innsbruck to reach this beautiful Seefeld, and all the outlying, all the way across into Germany. In fact, Germany just 3 kilometers down the road past Seefeld.
Meng of China coming up to the 1.7, and that's a really impressive time. 30 seconds inside the previous best, and that surely is going to be good enough to see her through. She's racing well. She was racing in Lahti in the Under-23 World Championships, generally pulling in around 200 FIS points. Now, the less points you get, the better you are. 200, not quite good enough to automatically qualify, but I'd be surprised if she didn't go through from today's effort.
Certainly looks great from Meng there. She's 30 seconds ahead of the next best, and of course, that's a very early starter.
And this is the big final climb for Dalmansuren. And Arian Sana leading the way up, wearing number 3. She's taken a minute out of this lady. '20 is Katarina Pohl from Australia. We've seen Amy Watson racing in Pyeongchang. And Pohl's best result at the Junior World Championships was top 55.
Katarina Pohl, I thought she might be pushing closer to the lead time than she is here, but second part of the track certainly allows for more momentum. 20 seconds is still a good time. She's second place.
Second place, only 6 athletes starting after her, and so that bodes well for a qualification. Jacqueline Mourão of Brazil. Now, there's a chance she could go into second place. She does. 15.6 behind. That's a good effort from Mourão. She's 43 years old, so the oldest in the field. She's got a couple of kids, and that's a really good effort from her.
And lives up in Quebec, so certainly in comparison to Brazil, where there isn't much snow at all, she can get out there every day on her cross-country skis, and I think she will qualify with that time.
Arian Sana just upping the pace. This is the final climb before she'll break to the right and then descend back down towards the finishing straight. Now, bear this in mind, because this is the same, virtually the same route for the sprint events which take place tomorrow. They'll be just on the right of this athlete, taking a slightly tighter line around the top of the course, and then a very fast descent with a banking left turn into the finish arena. And this is where the sprint, I feel, is going to be won and lost tomorrow.
Tomorrow, can you imagine? There'll be potentially 6 athletes turning left there with 200 meters to go. It's going to be, and then you do carry a lot of speed into this final section. I know it's been changed since last year. It's slightly uphill. May not look it here, but it is.
Well, Arian Sana setting the faster splits all the way around. Her times have been bettered, but she, by finishing first, is, of course, going to take the lead. 17:10, I think the winning time is going to be closer to the 15-minute mark. I would have thought maybe under 16 minutes is a more realistic time for the winner here today. Anything near the 3 minutes per kilometre is okay for these races. And Kimbaya has had a pretty good run as well. The town of Seefeld in the background. The sort of St. Moritz of Austria, it feels like.
Yes, it is. Property's expensive to buy here, and it's such a beautiful, guaranteed sunshine most of February. Most of January as well, so it's a great place to come for alpine skiing, and magnificent for cross-country skiing as we see today. Not many spectators today, but without a doubt tomorrow's sprint competitions, this stadium will be packed.
So Kimbaya coming in, she just misses the best time of 17:17. As I mentioned earlier, top 60 of the Junior World Championships, or the Under-23 World Championships in Lahti recently. And so that gives you some sort of idea of the level that they had at the juniors. Always 2 or 3 athletes seem to be a margin ahead of the rest. Nika Jogicic, who started a full minute behind Enkbaya, and just 16 last month, so starting her international experience very, very early. I know in the past, Mike, we've been slightly critical of putting athletes into this sort of level of competition too early in the career, feeling that it can only depress you when you realise how much work you've got to do. On the other hand, if you do make it through to the following championships, you've had that experience before, you've got over those nerves that always come with going to a majors for the first time.
Very much. I think from the smaller nations, so the nations who don't have a huge pyramid, a depth of cross-country skiers, I think it's a good thing. As you say, you've experienced World Championships tracks, you've aimed for this, you know exactly how you feel coming to a major, and who knows, in 2 years' time, hopefully we'll see many of these athletes coming back, and I'm sure much improved.
Well, something that has certainly improved is the quality of the tracks, and actually that's probably the main reason that times have got quicker over the years. You know, they're nearly averaging 30 kilometers an hour now. In the past, if you did 15, you were doing well. You compare the pictures from 1985 to today, Mike, and then you look at the size of the piston bully that's pressing the tracks, you start to understand why they're in such good condition.
You're so right. I watched some footage from the 1985 championships here, and at the time I thought it was amazing. I thought they'll never get better than this. They weren't very wide. You had deep snow left and right, and they looked awful in comparison to what, 30-odd years later, just how wide these tracks are, how well they are prepared.
Yeah, 1985, the era of Thomas Wasberg and Gunde Svan.
Yes, Murillo Desolt on the podium in the 15-kilometer bronze medalist then. Italians were good. And of course, the era of Gunde Svan. Didn't win the 15-kilometer, but he won most of the rest back then.
Well, here's the event leader, Arinsana. Now, if she goes through in the top 10, I think she'll be pleasantly surprised, Mike. Starting number 3, her international feast points certainly not indicating that she was capable of doing that. And there she is, sitting in the leaders' enclosure. Great start for the day. And Mongolia's Arinsana still with the leading time. Welcome back to Seefeld. We now have some 14 athletes across the line, over half the field just about finished. Certainly will be when these 3 come across the line. 18's had a good run. This is Honglian Meng from China. Now, she looked really good early on, had a lead of 30 seconds at the 1.7-kilometer stage. She's kept that pace going, and she's almost going to be a minute 20 clear. Fantastic run from her, and the new leading time, making Arinsana's time look very, very modest indeed. That was a wonderful run from the 21-year-old.
That was a surprise run. Clearly, bib number 18, we would have expected today, the bigger the later the starter, the better the chance. But that's going to be a very difficult time to beat from Meng.
Yeah, and with that sort of time, Mike, and looking at the earlier splits, Meng still with the fastest at 1.7, and her lead over Gundadottir of Iceland, who started last, or started in the last 3, was still a substantial 7-8 seconds. So she may well hang on to the lead here, but those starting later obviously have the advantage of knowing what they've got to do. Paul of Australia, she's got to go up to the top of this hill and then a 180-degree turn before she descends to the finish. And for most of the athletes, it's a full 30 seconds from here into the finish, and we'll just see get an accurate readout. Goes round the corner 4 seconds behind that leading time of 15:57 from Meng.
Now, I think this is going to be good enough, and her pace early on, we did wonder coming up the first of the climb, she was 20 seconds off the pace. She's really picked that up since then, and I think this is a qualifying time. Her dad, Andrew Paul, former biathlete, he should be very proud of this. 22-year-old from the Birkebeiner Nordic Ski Club.
Well, she's going into second place. That is certain for now. Just having a look, we need to keep an eye out for bibs number 21, 23, who started just 30 seconds and a minute 30 behind Paul of Australia, who's just finished. Here is number 21. This is Jacqueline Moreau. We mentioned her early, at 43 years of age. She's the oldest here by a substantial margin, but she has not shown that. Just 30 seconds outside Meng into second place, and she's got herself a place in the championships for real.
She certainly has. Top 10 guaranteed, second place at the moment. I'm not sure we're going to see that beaten, except possibly by Gunnarsdottir, the Icelandic athlete.
Yeah, Kristrin.
She should be in very soon, actually.
Gunnarsdottir, and she raced in the Norwegian National Championship. Certainly did herself proud there. And of course, Elsa Gudrun Jonsdottir of Iceland won the 5-kilometre qualifying in Lahti 2 years ago. So the Greenlanders have got a good record at this event. No news so far on Ladapoulou of Greece, who started 24, and Behrami Bahir of Iran, who started last, number 26. So Meng, Moreau, Paul, the leading three at the moment. China, Brazil and Australia.
Just looking at just under half distance, Skender was lying in 10th position, so at that time she was only 57 seconds behind. And of course at the end she dropped 2 minutes and 10 seconds behind Meng.
Well, we haven't seen too many crashes so far. That's Bilianaite from Lithuania. Certainly wasn't expecting to see that.
Oh, and on that fall, of course, another athlete trying to go wide has fallen into the advertising banners, and that's a real shame. Well, day one, not a great start, but they are running out to qualify into the top 10, so the least experienced athletes we will see at these games.
Well, a little bit of practice for the first aid team as well. It's very, very rare to see a serious injury on the cross-country skis. Savem Shaki from Iran, 5 minutes down on Meng's time. It shows you the massive gulf, even in this race, between the fastest and the slowest. And the weaker nations might so often losing as much time, if not more, on the downhills because they're just not prepared to commit.
Exactly that, Patrick. Look, when you snow plough, that's putting the brakes on a descent. That's where you carry all your speed into the next climb, or in this case, the finish. Then you lose some 15 seconds on that one descent. But that comes with experience and balance and the ability to cope with speed when your legs are so fatigued, your body is so fatigued, and your heartbeat is 10 beats below maximum.
Last 50 metres for Savem Shamshaki and Gunnarsdottir of Iceland has come in 7th. Now, that's a bit surprising, Mike. Did she go too hard early on? 1:43 behind. She was in second place going through 1.7. I suspect she might have taken a fall as well. Laszko of Hungary was the athlete who took the crash into the sideboards. And we just hope that she is okay. Now, this is an athlete we were waiting for. Birami Bahers, who was last to start, already 2:05. So she too might, perhaps, I think, chasing Meng's time, going off too hard on the early part of the course. Either that, or some of the later starters have had trouble with the wax, the glide. There's something gone drastically wrong, because they weren't that far behind the Chinese athlete going through 1.7.
And I think very much so. That's Birami Bahar. I don't think she won't make it now, and she started so strong, but there was absolutely no grip wax, no ability to get up that hill easily. So out in the forest, she's clearly lost her way with not having a good enough grip wax.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, she's one of those athletes who's much better at the freestyle technique. She looks very fluent in freestyle, a little bit rusty on the classic style, which is very technical. It takes a lot to pick it up.
She will be so disappointed, Patrick, and you're absolutely right. Freestyle is more her strength. That's what she qualified in the top 10 at the Olympic Games, and she'll be very disappointed with this time. 3:10 behind.
And down in 14th place, and as soon as she sees the board, she'll realise, whoops, that she is not going through to the main competition, which is bitterly disappointing, because she was Iran's best hope here today. But let's take nothing away from Meng Honglian of China, who has absolutely blown the field apart, and her winning time 15 minutes 57 seconds for the 5-kilometre classic, and no wonder she's got a big smile on her face. That's a good start, Mike. It'd be interesting to see what she does in the main event. And what event do you think she'll go in for?
Well, it's clearly the classic is there and good. She'll be doing, without a doubt, she'll be doing the 10-kilometre classic, which comes along, just getting my dates. Yes, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the ladies 10-kilometre classic.
Well, while we watch some of the pictures of Meng as she finishes the race, just to update you on the programme, tomorrow is all about the sprinters, the qualifying and the final for both the men and the women's sprint. A lot of fans expected to turn up for that. I've heard that there are over 15,000 Norwegians descending on Seefeld over the next couple of weeks. That is a phenomenal figure. And if that's the case, I think they're going to completely pack out the tribune opposite our commentary boxes. So here are our standings. Meng goes through as the winner, 15:57. Marau of Brazil puts in a great result for the older generations in second place. Katarina Paul of Australia, 42.5 behind. She picked the pace up, whereas so many started too fast on that climb and faded later on. All these women, bar Jagacic at the top of Croatia, who is the last to qualify. All the rest, I'm afraid, are out of the championships after just 5 kilometres. Well, that's the end of the women's 5 kilometre. The men racing in the classic style over 10 kilometres a little later on today. Congratulations to Meng Honglian, the winner of the women's qualification. We'll see more of her over the next 10 days.
Yeah, really happy there. The Chinese win in front of the Brazilian and the Australian. That's not too common in the World Cup to see those countries.
No, it absolutely is not that common. And I mean, the Australian, you have to remember, it's summer in Australia. So she's used to surfing, not skiing. So I thought she did a great race. But Honglian Meng was phenomenal out there. She really kept her energy in all the sections of the course, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, and it's a story about the Chinese going to Norway to train. Of course, they have the Beijing 2022 in the back of their minds.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right, Karsten. Beijing looms large, and Meng is skiing so well up this course. She's skiing with quite good technique in classic, and classic is a tricky technique. You have to have good timing and really hammer down on your kick to make those skis grip. With the double poling, you can see her here. She's using her core really well. She's found a really good rhythm, and I'm not surprised when I'm seeing these images again that she won so easily.
And now she qualified for the distance races, which is also skating and classic.
That would be very interesting to see if she's as well technically in skating as she is in classic, because when you think about it, if you see her here on the downhill as well, she's just cornering so well, using her edges really well. She's got great balance, and I think she should be great in the skate events as well. I mean, it'll be really exciting to see her progress. She's young, She still has 3 years till the Olympics come to Beijing, and I'm looking forward to seeing her progress. I thought this was a great race by her today.
All right. We also have some pictures we don't want to see. We saw the Hungarian crash. I don't know if you have those pictures. We also see what happens there. If we can get those pictures where the Hungarian was carried out on a stretcher from this 5-kilometer classic. You don't want to see that.
No, you never want to see a crash like this. If you see number 11, the Lithuanian crash, and then the Hungarian, Lasko comes and just tries to sneak around on the tight end of the border of the banner. Sorry, she crashes. She's being carried out. That's probably the fastest downhill on the blue course, and to see that, it's heartbreaking. I really hope that she's okay and can get back on her feet soon.
Yeah, we don't know the status yet of her condition, but we cross the fingers that everything is okay. The general standard of the qualification, what do you think?
You know what? I thought everyone actually skied pretty well. I mean, I think you can see if you're a viewer at home. There's, there was a moment in the race where Arinsana passed Pop climbing the hill, and I think that kind of illustrated the big difference that we're seeing here. If you see Arinsana, the Mongolian, she's skiing with really great timing, good kicks. I mean, for her level, of course. I mean, she's not skiing like Klæbo out there, but she is skiing with pretty well timing. And then if you see the Hungarian behind her that has been passed, quite stiff in the legs, not the same timing, really quite rigid and straight. And it's not a surprise that an athlete like Arinsana is knocking on the door of the podium. Will move through to the World Championships, whereas Pop struggled to hold that same tempo.
Okay, but the difference between her and the best skiers in the world, what's the biggest difference?
Oh, there's a lot of... the sad thing is cross-country is a very technical sport, and there's a lot of differences. I mean, Therese Johaug has impeccable timing. She has a capacity that is unparalleled, and she would be able to be on this race and be 5, 6, 7 minutes faster. So it's the differences are fairly big, but at the same time, I'm really impressed with all these athletes coming out here and skiing so well. These are World Championship courses. They're probably much more difficult than they're used to at home. So when you see how they're able to execute this course, the fact that they come to the line with decent technique in certain periods of the course, I'm impressed.
How's your Chinese? Is it good? Okay.
My Chinese is absolutely horrendous.
Okay.
So if you want to see that online, I've got 3 years, don't I? Beijing is in 3 years, so
yeah.
That's a good goal.
But thankfully we have someone who knows Chinese. Let's listen to the winner.
The first place in the qualification of the first race of this year's World Ski Championships. How does it feel?
今天的感受怎么样？
今天感受很棒，就是
Feeling very good.
对，还有今天的天气，还有场地。
The weather and the competition course is pretty good.
Yeah，还有我很幸运今天。
PP is very lucky. Yeah, very lucky.
That's right. What's the goal now for the upcoming races you have qualified?
你下面的那个目标是啥？这个就是全力以赴，是吧？全力以赴做好比赛。你说。
下面我会，接下来的比赛我会全力以赴，全力以赴比好每一场比赛，每一项。
She will try her best to do the competition and for every day.
That's a good plan. Congratulations and enjoy.
That was the winner, Hung Lian Meng from China in front of Jacqueline Moreau, Katharina Paul from Australia, and you see on 7th place, Kristjun Gudnadottir from the beautiful place Iceland. Congratulations, you're through to the World Championship.
Thank you.
How was the race?
I'm not so happy. It was a very good first 2 kilometers, and then I just kind of stopped, I don't know, and the end was okay, so... but I did qualify, so it's okay, but I'm not so happy with the race.
Is it difficult because some places are in the shadow, some are in the sun? It's difficult with the skis?
Some place, when you go up the hill and come over the top, you kind of stop a little bit, but I had good skis and we've been testing a lot, so I was happy with the skis, so it was good.
Did you feel the altitude? Because it's like 11 to 1,300 meters?
Yeah, I kind of feel it. I'm not used to it, so my heart rate is a little higher, and yeah, it's like... You get stiff, like really stiff, faster. But I mean, it's so beautiful here, so I don't complain.
How did you find that the conditions were changing from the sun and the shade out there?
It's just different in the snow, because like sometimes you have really good kick and glide, and sometimes it kind of stops, because I think the snow is cold and the weather is hot. So where there's sun, it gets like hotter, and then there's cold where there's shadow. so I feel it just a little bit, but not so much, so it was okay.
Great, well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just ask you, Kristin, but the support staff you have compared to the Norwegians or the Russians or the Swedes, how many people do you have here in Seefeld?
We have one coach and one waxing, and then we have one who's testing, and 2 other guys from the federation who are just watching. And that's a really big staff for us. Usually we only have 2 people. And but they're really good people and they work hard, so I think we get just good skis and everything, even though we don't have like a huge team.
So you're more now than ever?
Yeah, it's getting bigger, so now we're not just 2, we're like 7. Right. So it's getting bigger, yeah.
Okay, up from Island. Good luck in the distant races. Thank you so much. Okay, here we see the podium. What can these 3 individuals do in the distant races?
The reality of the competition is they will have a really hard time. It's almost impossible for them to crack the top 30 here in Seefeld. The level is just so high with the top competitors in the world. But if they can have a chance to get out there again and have their best effort, I think all of them, if we sat and talked to them, would just ask and hope for that their best races of the season come here under the sun and in the shadow of the Alps here in Seefeld. Their best race of the season is here. So I think that's what they're hoping for as the week winds on here.
Yeah, here's Hong Lian Meng on top of the podium for the qualifiers, ready for the World Championship here in Seefeld. As we told the viewers earlier on today, there's no gold medals today. It starts tomorrow with the sprint for the ladies and for the men. It's been so much speculations about Stina Nilsson. She got injured in Otepää. She pulled her hamstring in the semifinals. She's been out ever since. She is in Seefeld. She's going to compete, and we met her.
Stina Nilsson, tell us, how did you feel the first days after the injury?
The first days were not so easy. I had a lot of pain in my, I don't know what you call it baksida lår, in the back of my leg. But when I started to do the rehab training, it started to ease the pain, and I could do more and more in training.
Did you really believe that you would stand here today?
I'm born optimistic, so somewhere deep inside me I always hoped and believed so, but everyone around me told me that maybe you should start to realize that maybe you can't stand on the start line. So that was really hard for me to hear, but I was also even more motivated to do the rehab training to be able to stand here.
How is it to go through a process like that and just not know if you're gonna be able to perform and do what you love the most?
I think it's different between different people. I took it very good, and I was like over-inspired every day to do the training and to do what I could do. So I have had 4 great weeks, and I've been motivated and more inspired than ever.
Yeah, that was Stina Nilsson, looking quite happy, actually.
Oh, she's amazingly relaxed. I think there's something in the air. There's something in the weather here. The athletes are relaxed, the staff are relaxed, like we talked earlier. But it's really great for the sport of cross-country skiing to see the best sprinter of the year so far back on her feet and looking great to compete tomorrow.
But she won 4 in a row, which is like outstanding. Then she got injured. How is her form?
Oh, it is so hard to know. I mean, the staff is really positive. Rickard Grip, the leader of Sweden, the team leader of Sweden, he was really positive when he was asked yesterday, how is the status, what is the Stina status? And I mean, that has been such a big topic here at the World Championships. Of course, the first day is the sprint. Stina's the biggest star. But I mean, it's going to be her body's a question mark, and mentally, she seems great. I mean, in that interview, she seems ready to go tomorrow. So all the other competitors have to be on their toes, because she's coming. She wouldn't be here if she didn't believe.
Yeah, but what do you lose in a month?
That's the other thing. What has she done for training? Obviously, her physio team, her therapy team has been working around the clock, figuratively, to get her ready for this competition. And she would not be here if she didn't have a stack of great workouts behind her that showed her that she can compete at the elite level. So what can we expect for tomorrow? Of course, I expect her to be at least a medal around her neck, if not the gold medal. But like you said, 4 weeks out with injury, it's really hard to know.
Okay, but also the sprint course is not so tough for the ladies. Can that be in favor of Stina Nilsson?
In one sense, yes, but in the other sense, no, because when the sprint course gets easy like that, more players come to play. I mean, you have Jessie Diggins, Sophie Caldwell, Fala, the new Norwegian rocket, Skistad. You have lots and lots of people that can compete when the course is a little easier like it is for the women. So Stina's going to have her hands full, healthy or not.
All right, 11:45 tomorrow, we start to build up for the prologue for the sprint. We will be back 13:45 CET today with the men's qualification. Looking forward to it?
Yeah, of course I'm looking forward to it. Let's go, guys.
All right, see you soon.
Well, interesting stuff. So fascinating to see that Stina Nielsen is going to be in the running. It's been a big question mark for the last month of competition on the World Cup. Some impressive performances. Meng might still, as our guys were saying, she's going to find it tough, but it'll be interesting to see how she gets on. And the men's 10-kilometre coming up soon. The top 10 again going through into the championships for real. There's lots at stake.